My mother used to say success is like an iceberg, what the world sees is only the tip, while the real effort lies hidden beneath the surface. I didn't fully grasp what she meant until I became that iceberg myself. I'm Emma Chin, and this is the story of how I went from being the embarrassing waitress in my husband's elite family to watching their meticulously curated world collapse, one glass of wine at a time. I grew up in a small apartment above my parents' restaurant in San Francisco's Chinatown. By the time I could reach the countertop, I was already folding napkins. At 8, I greeted customers with practiced charm. By 12, I was handling the books more efficiently than my father. "Emma, help me with these numbers," he'd call, adjusting his reading glasses with a sigh. I'd slide in beside him eagerly. "Bah, the profit margin's too low. If we increase menu prices by just 10%, we could." He'd chuckle and ruffle my hair. "My little business genius, you'll go far." Those early years taught me everything about business, about people, and about how easily perception can be manipulated. While other kids played house, I played CEO with spreadsheets and mock budgets. My parents sacrificed everything to put me through college. I owed it to them to make it count. At Stanford, I developed an ad-driven financial analysis tool that caught the attention of major firms. By 25, I'd built fintech solutions, one of the fastest-growing fintech startups in Silicon Valley. But I kept my success under wraps. I preferred operating behind the curtain, letting others take the spotlight. Then I met Michael. It happened at a tiny coffee shop near my old neighborhood. I was in jeans and a threadbare sweater, focused on my laptop, when he bumped into my table, nearly spilling coffee everywhere. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," he said, steadying my laptop. "Texting while walking, terrible habit." I looked up to see warm brown eyes and an apologetic smile that made me forget the mess. "No harm done," I replied. "I'm Emma." "Michael, let me at least buy you another coffee." Laptop resuscitation fee. One coffee became dinner, then more dinners, and suddenly, everything changed. Michael was unlike the finance sharks I usually met. A high school history teacher with a passion for educational equity. He couldn't have cared less about stock prices or quarterly reports. He cared about impact, about people. 6 months later, he proposed. I said yes. And then I met the Blackwoods. Old money, generational wealth, and casual snobbery wrapped in pearls and bespoke suits. At our first family dinner, his sister, Victoria, wasted no time drawing blood. "So, Emma," she said with a cool smile, twirling her wine glass, "Michael said you work in the service industry?" I could have told her the truth, that I owned the software her firm was negotiating a 7-figure deal to license, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she said service industry, like it was a contagious rash, or maybe I was just curious to see how far they'd go when they believed I was beneath them. "I help with the family business," I said. "Oh, the little Chinese restaurant?" she replied, hand fluttering to her chest in faux sympathy. "How quaint. But someone has to do those jobs, I suppose." Michael shifted, uncomfortable, but silent. His mother, Eleanor, chimed in with rehearsed cheer. "Well, not everyone can be a Victoria. She just led a massive marketing campaign at Preston Shaw. The CEO himself praised her." I fought back a grin. Preston Shaw was one of our clients. In fact, they were currently in talks to expand their license with my firm. "That's very impressive," I said genuinely. From then on, every family gathering followed a pattern. Victoria never missed an opportunity to remind me of my humble roots. Michael would squeeze my hand under the table but never said a word in my defense. "They're just traditional," he'd whisper later. "Give them time." And then came the announcement. Victoria was throwing an extravagant party at the Blackwood estate to celebrate her promotion to senior marketing director. Preston Shaw's executive team and top clients would be in attendance. "Emma," she said sweetly over dinner, "since you have experience in food service, would you mind helping the catering staff? You'd be perfect directing the servers." Eleanor clapped. "Wonderful idea. Emma knows how to run a restaurant, it's perfect." I met Victoria's smug gaze across the table. "Of course," I said calmly, "I'd be delighted to help." That night, Michael tried to apologize. "You don't have to do this," he said, "we can make an excuse." But I was already thinking several moves ahead. "No," I said, "I want to help. It's a big night for Victoria. Everything should go smoothly." What they didn't know was that earlier that day, I received an email from none other than James Preston, CEO of Preston Shaw. He wanted to meet the elusive founder of FinTech Solutions, to discuss a potential merger. And he would be attending Victoria's party. The timing couldn't have been better. The stage was set. Victoria believed the night would be about her. What she didn't realize was that it would become something else entirely. Looking back, I've learned that revenge isn't always about retaliation. Sometimes, it's simply about revealing the truth, in the most unforgettable way possible. And I had a feeling this party would be very, very unforgettable. It felt like a desperate attempt at opulence. Crystal chandeliers had been hauled in just for the evening. Ice sculptures littered the garden like frozen monuments to excess. A string quartet played softly in the corner, trying to lend class to what was, at its core, a glorified ego fest. The irony wasn't lost on me. The entire party budget probably outstripped Victoria's annual salary. Emma, Victoria's voice sliced through the air like a blade. She descended the staircase in a designer gown worth more than the down payment on my parents' first restaurant. The catering staff is in the kitchen, she said coolly, please keep them organized, and, her gaze flicked to my understated black dress, try to stay in the background, this night's important. I offered a gracious smile. Of course, Victoria, I'll make sure everything runs perfectly. Michael caught me gently by the arm as I turned to go. You don't have to do this, he murmured, we can leave, right now. I touched his cheek. Don't worry, everything's about to work out exactly as it should. In the kitchen, the catering team looked overwhelmed. Victoria had apparently swept through like a hurricane, barking last-minute demands. Mrs. Chin, one of the young servers approached me nervously. Miss Blackwood wants champagne served exactly at 8:05 for her speech, but also wants non-stop tray service, and we're short. I gave her a reassuring smile. I've got it covered. For the next hour, I did what I'd done since I was 8. I ran the floor, I managed servers, adjusted timing, and tracked the guest list while keeping everything smooth and seamless. All the while, Victoria flitted around like a drunken butterfly, laughing too loudly and clinging to the arm of anyone remotely important. Did you see Emma? I overheard her saying to a group. That's my brother's wife, helping the caterers. Poor thing, she's just more comfortable in the kitchen. Eleanor chimed in with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. We've tried to help her adjust. We even thought about contributing toward a little condo, something modest. Not in our neighborhood, of course, but somewhere, fitting. I kept serving drinks. At 7:55, my phone buzzed. CFO, all done, docs signed, green light. Perfect. Guests continued arriving, among them, Preston Shaw executives, and at precisely 8 p.m., James Preston himself. Victoria nearly tripped rushing to greet him, her glass already half empty. Mr. Preston, we're thrilled to have you. He smiled politely, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. Victoria noticed. Oh, don't mind her, she said breezily, that's just my brother's wife, helping the servers, she's used to this sort of thing. James frowned. Actually, isn't that? I handed my tray to a nearby waiter and walked over. Victoria's face tightened. Emma, please, Mr. Preston doesn't need another drink, go back to the kitchen. I ignored her. James, I said with a calm nod, thank you for coming. His face lit up. Mrs. Chin, I wasn't expecting to find you working the floor, at your own party. Victoria blinked. Her own party? Well, yes, James said, confused. Given that FinTech Solutions just acquired controlling interest in Preston Shaw, I assumed this was to announce the merger. He turned to me. Unless you'd planned to keep that under wraps? The string quartet had stopped. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. I don't understand, she stammered. Emma's a waitress. She runs a Chinese restaurant. James chuckled. Emma Chin is the founder and CEO of FinTech Solutions. She just became my boss, and, as of this afternoon, yours as well. He looked back at me. Those algorithm tweaks you suggested for our trading models, brilliant. By the way. Eleanor clutched a chair for support. There must be some mistake, she whispered. Emma can't be. Oh, but I am, I said, voice steady and soft, but in the silence, every syllable landed like a hammer. FinTech Solutions has always been mine, and as of tonight, we own 51% of Preston Shaw. I turned to Victoria, including marketing. Her mouth opened, then closed, her face had turned a pale, sickly green. But, all those times you treated me like help, looked down on me, questioned whether I belonged, I said evenly. Yes, I remember every moment. Michael pushed through the crowd. Emma, why didn't you tell me? I met his gaze. Would it have mattered? Would you have defended me if you knew I was rich? Because you never did when you thought I wasn't. Silence followed, and then the truth of it settled between us like smoke. James cleared his throat. Well, since the cat's out of the bag, shall we make the merger official? Absolutely, I said. Then I turned back to Victoria. You had a speech prepared, didn't you? Want to give it, or shall I? Victoria swayed slightly, then turned and fled. Eleanor followed, heels clacking behind her like punctuation marks. I lifted a glass from a passing tray and gave it a soft clink. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may. As I stepped up to the podium and outlined FinTech Solutions' vision for Preston Shaw's future, I watched the Blackwoods unravel. Michael hovered near the wall, silent. Eleanor had vanished. Mr. Blackwood stood alone by the bar, staring into an empty glass. When the announcement was over, James approached me again. That was dramatic, he said, smiling. But tell me, why let them think you were just a waitress for so long? I took a sip of champagne. Because people always show you who they are, when they think you're beneath them. James nodded, impressed. Well, their mistake, our gain. I look forward to working with you, properly, this time. As the party began to wind down, Victoria reappeared. Her makeup had been hastily repaired, but the cracks in her composure were obvious. She made a beeline for me. You humiliated me, she hissed, in front of everyone who matters in my professional life. No, Victoria, I replied evenly. You humiliated yourself. I simply let you do it in front of witnesses. I'll resign. I won't work for you. That's your choice, but before you make it, you should know, every major firm in the city already knows what happened tonight. Word travels fast. Your habit of looking down on service workers while insulting your CEO won't do much for your job search. Her shoulders sank. Reality was settling in. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. I want you to learn. I met her eyes, steady and unwavering. Starting Monday, you'll be working with our community outreach program. We're partnering with local restaurants and small businesses to provide financial tech support. You'll be reporting directly to my mother. Your mother? Victoria blinked. Yes, she still runs our family restaurant, by choice, not necessity. She'll be overseeing our small business initiative. I think you'll learn more about real business there than you ever did at Preston Shaw. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely lost. Then came Eleanor, still composed, but her edges were fraying. Emma, surely we can speak privately. We are family, after all. Family? I turned to her, voice calm. You excluded me from family photos, seated me with the staff, called my background unfortunate. When exactly did you treat me like family? We didn't know you were wealthy. And that's the problem, isn't it? I said softly. You thought I was poor, so I wasn't worthy, but now that I'm rich, you want to talk. A long silence, then, unexpectedly, Mr. Blackwood stepped forward. She's right, he said, voice low but steady. We've behaved shamefully. He turned to me. I've watched this family slide into something cold and cruel. Perhaps this reckoning was overdue. Finally, Michael approached. The party had emptied, leaving only the Blackwoods and me. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. I tried, so many times, but every time you let them belittle me, every time you said nothing, I realized something. I looked him straight in the eye. If you couldn't respect me as a waitress, you didn't deserve to know me as a CEO. He swallowed. I love you. Love without respect isn't enough, Michael. Every time you stayed silent, you told me what our marriage was worth to you. I can change, now that I know. Now that you know I'm rich? I raised an eyebrow. That's not change, Michael, that's calculation. I slid my wedding ring off and set it gently on the table. I filed for divorce last week. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. Emma, please. I have a board meeting tomorrow with Preston Shaw. I turned toward Victoria. And Victoria, I expect you at the restaurant at 9 a.m. sharp on Monday. My mother doesn't tolerate lateness. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Eleanor? The estate looks beautiful. You should enjoy it while you can. The bank just approved my offer. It'll make a perfect headquarters for our new charitable foundation. Their expressions froze. We'll be focusing on education and career opportunities for service workers, I added. Then I left. I didn't stay to savor their faces. I didn't need to. Outside, the cool night air wrapped around me. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Coming to the restaurant for late dinner? Dad made your favorite. I smiled and typed back, be there in 20 minutes later, I sat in the warm, familiar glow of my parents' restaurant, dipping dumplings in vinegar and telling them about the evening. My mother said, shaking her head, so dramatic, but good. Some people only learn respect the hard way. My father nodded, eyes crinkling. Success without humility is like a tree without roots, he said, it topples in the first strong wind. After dinner, I helped them wash dishes. Yes, the CEO of FinTech Solutions still does dishes. It keeps me grounded, it reminds me of where I came from and who I am. 6 months later, Victoria was a different woman. Under my mother's mentorship, she discovered a real passion for helping small businesses grow. She even started smiling at servers. The Blackwood estate became the Chin Foundation for educational opportunity, offering scholarships and mentorship for students and service workers who deserved a shot at something more. Michael still sent the occasional email. I never replied. Some bridges don't burn, they collapse under the weight of what they were never strong enough to hold. As for me, I finally stepped into the spotlight as CEO. Forbes wanted an interview. I gave them one, with photos taken in my parents' kitchen. On weekends, I still serve tables. And sometimes, a customer will do a double take. Wait, aren't you that CEO? I smile, yes, would you like extra napkins? Because success is like an iceberg, what you see is only the tip. The real story is underneath, the work, the grit, the humility, and how you treat people, especially when you think no one's watching. That's where character lives. And that's where the Blackwoods learned their lesson. The hard way.